Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for the kind introduction. You can all hear me without a microphone, I'm sure. So, and is that for those people who are making me nervous by taping this, will that pick up the... I'll try to continue to be informal, though. It's good to be here this morning and to see such a good group here to talk about bicycling in Omaha. When I mentioned to my wife that this was the bike summit, she asked if Khrushchev and Nixon were going to be riding over on bicycles. I said I didn't think so, but who knows? What I want to talk about today are some efforts, some of which you may know about, some of which you might not know about, that deal with bicycle transportation in the metropolitan area. And by bicycle transportation, we're really focused, as Stephen said, right now more on how to adapt the street system to bicycle use. Trails, multi-use trails are a critical part of our system, but we'll be talking primarily about street efforts and street-related efforts that augment the trail system, that speak to the needs of people who are using bicycles, not just for recreation, but also for transportation. Might not be a bad idea to turn the lights down if you could. We'll probably get good light from the south window eventually anyway. Obviously, the enormous event this year for bicycle and pedestrian transportation was this wonderful project that we see out the window, actually out the window if you're looking on the other side, the Bob Carey pedestrian bridge, which I think has proven to be a revelation for people. For people who didn't know what was on, for Omahans, provincials that we are, that didn't know what was on the other side of the river, now have a whole new city opened up, which is very exciting. To the hundreds and sometimes thousands of people on weekends and in evenings who are using this as a promenade, as a place to train their kids how to ride bikes, to walk their dogs, to push their strollers. It's a pretty phenomenal thing, and I think its use will continue to grow. But there have been other significant events that have happened in the past year and that are happening. One of those we think that will prove to be of significant value was the publication through Activate Omaha of our first metropolitan area bicycle map. So this includes, although it says Omaha metro area, the graphics got messed up if we put Omaha, Council Bluffs, Papillion, La Vista, Ralston. But Omaha metropolitan area bicycle map that is a way of rating different streets in the city and helping people to move through the entire metropolitan area from destination to destination. So for those of you who have a map, you know how it works. For those of you who don't have a map, we had hoped to put those in your folders today. It didn't quite get done, but they're available through Tammy Dodge at Activate Omaha or at bike stores and other destinations around the city. The front side rates different streets in the city, ranging from low density or low traveled routes that provide some level of continuity, that actually go from one point to another, to things that we have sort of whimsically called survivable arterials. Those are streets that you can probably live through if you need to use them, but are not necessarily the best places to be. The trail system is well superimposed on that, as you can see, and then the backside of the map has a blow-up of the central part of the city from the river to about 90th Street, as well as a little bibliography of books that are related to urban bicycle transportation and good tips on roads, on rules of the road, trail etiquette, how to be courteous, how to enhance everybody's chances for using the street system comfortably and safely. We've been gratified that a lot of people have used the map and printed 5,000, thought that they would last 3 years. They barely lasted 3 months. And gratified that people have told us that they've used the map and have been able to find routes that really help them get through the city. The map, in a way, is a first step to developing more of a citywide bicycle system that might include numbered routes that show ways of connecting from the trails to more outlying destinations, and of doing what a number of cities have done, both large and small, and that is establishing specific routes that are destination oriented, that help navigate cyclists through the community. One of the initial outgrowths of that we're very excited about, and I'll spend the bulk of this hour talking about, is our initial 20-mile pilot system that's designed to adapt suitable city streets to provide east-west transportation, generally between the riverfront and the Missouri River Bridge, to the more eastern reaches of the trail system. That is the Field Club Trail, the Keystone Trail, and the programmed Boulevard Trail. So what I'm going to start out by doing is showing you the components of the system, talk a little bit about its infrastructure, about some of the facilities that are proposed, and some of the solutions and directions that we might also be going in the future in terms of joint use of the street system for cyclists. Generally, in designing the nature of the system, we have focused on streets that offered relatively low resistance to joint use. For example, some of you may know, if you're my age, know that up until 1955, Omaha had a streetcar system. And generally the streets that the streetcars used had single or double streetcar tracks in the center of the street. Well, many of those streets were built a little bit wider than the normal street. So a street like 48th Street from Leavenworth to Poppleton, which is, for those of you who know, is a relatively wide street, is wide because it had streetcar tracks down the middle of it. Or 32nd Avenue or Leavenworth or 40th Street or Hamilton or Military were all streetcar routes. So that extra width gives us a resource to work with in terms of providing additional territory for cyclists, and we can do this without a loss of vehicular functionality. There are streets that are boulevards or that don't carry a lot of traffic that are components of the system, and there are a few areas that are somewhat unavoidable that we've got to make compromises on. My own kind of ideological position is that, at least in the early going of this process, that we are better off in terms of developing joint use bicycle and motor vehicle systems if we find ways, even if they involve a little bit of movement out of the way, of reducing friction and tension and avoiding things that are going to get motorists unhappy and generate resistance. It may not be, it's not necessarily the same attitude that everybody takes, but I think probably in this city it is. And so that's really what we've endeavored to do. In this system, here's the downtown area. This is a fairly new map, but we're located right there. There's the new bridge, so we're right at that point. In the downtown area, we use different on-street routes for transportation, but I want to really get more into the outlying connections because east-west transportation has been the biggest difficulty for a number of years. The system generally includes a central link, a south link, and a north link with interconnections that connect those together. The central link primarily uses Leavenworth Street and St. Mary's Avenue as the principal directions or principal routes out of downtown Omaha. Why? Because they are three-lane sections. In the case of St. Mary's, there's a lot of excess room in the street corridor already, and they're very adaptable to bicycle use without a great deal, again, of loss of motorist functionality. The central route continues along Leavenworth Street, a route that many people use, sometimes with a great deal of apprehension, but is generally the easiest and most direct east-west route for cyclists to use because even though it's got challenging grades out of the Saddle Creek Valley, its grades are easier than many of the alternatives. We also suggest as an alternate the use of Woolworth Avenue. So for those who don't necessarily want to go the direct and probably less pretty route, there's a wonderful scenic route that uses Park Avenue, Woolworth Avenue through the Field Club, 44th William, 46th and Poppleton, through Morton Meadows neighborhood up to 48th, and then back to the Leavenworth corridor again. So it's a route that I like to use a lot because it's quiet and pretty and a very pleasant way to go. The central route then continues down to 60th Street, where it links into Elmwood Park. Down 60th, an old streetcar corridor, to Woolworth, another streetcar corridor where the Exarban streetcar ran until 1949. Down 63rd, across through Exarban Village on the yet-to-be-paved Shirley Street, and then connects with the Keystone Trail at that location. So that's the central route with a branch. The north route adapts Burt Street two ways coming out of downtown. Burt, again, as many of you probably know, was a one-way street until recently. It has now been converted to two-way circulation and provides a very good section for the most part that's wide enough to accommodate bike lanes. The north route continues along either Burt Street or 33rd and Lincoln Boulevard. Burt Street works great downhill and is good climbing exercise going uphill to the west. The Boulevard route is very nice because, again, it's very pretty and a much more gentle grade than the Burt Street grade going up. That then comes to 40th Street, to Hamilton, to Military, and then links up to what will be the Boulevard Trail going northbound on Fontenelle Boulevard to get back to the Boulevard Trail that exists today going south. We use 48th Street, Happy Hollow, picking up the trail there in a bike lane, coming down along Memorial, Elmwood Park, and then again connecting back to the Keystone Trail through that route. So there's another north option as well. The south option links us back up to the zoo and ultimately to the Field Club Trail. So that uses, we have several good routes coming out of downtown Omaha that might include adapting 13th Street to bike travel or using 16th Street, which is a very easy route to use despite the existence of a famous pit bull at 16th and Pine that produced city council legislation. And, or 6th Street leading down to Bancroft. The south route then uses Vinton Street and Deer Park to serve the zoo, Vinton through the Vinton Street Business District, across the Vinton Street overpass of Interstate 480, which is a little bit dicey, but nevertheless has at least a 3-foot shoulder on either side of it, as well as a sidewalk on the north side, linking then directly to the Field Club Trail or to 32nd Avenue, which takes us back up to Woolworth and into that system. The Field Club Trail, as many of you know, will eventually be extended south of Interstate 480 and through the industry of the Capital Missouri River NRD and the city of Omaha will lead to the east-west trail following an old Chicago Northwestern right-of-way that links to the Field Club and the Keystone Trails down in that area. There are also several cross connections, north-south links in addition to that connect this system together. One of those that is proposed is a Field Club Trail connector that's under construction or largely complete, that extends along Pacific to Turner Boulevard and ultimately up to Dodge, which links up to Midtown Crossing. That would then extend up along the west side of 30th Street, probably as a side path, and connect with the north route of the 20-mile system running east and west. Another north-south connection involves the Boulevard Trail that we talked about earlier, and then also 40th Street through UNMC, and a future Saddle Creek Road connection that would be developed in the future to complete street standards, and in its current planning includes both a trail along a Saddle Creek Greenway and bike lanes along a relocated Saddle Creek Road. So you can see that what we're moving toward is the beginning of a pretty exciting system that connects downtown Creighton University, the medical center, UNO, many significant parks, the zoo, and provides us with, for the first time, at least a defined east-west trail link that goes from downtown to the major regional trail system farther to the west. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. How wonderful it would be if we had a great central Omaha joint use corridor or a railroad right-of-way that ran along Dodge Street. Lincoln is blessed by having some of these more radial corridors. We don't. And so we have to do with what we've got, and yet we think that this will provide us with a good degree of functionality. Here are some of the facilities that would be included in the system, because we're dealing with a pretty wide variety of street sections to think about. One situation that we have are streets that range from 28 to 30 to 32 feet that don't have parking. Parking is obviously one of the variables that we have to think about in terms of street adaptation. On these streets, an example of this is Burt Street, immediately east of 30th Street. We do have room to strike bike lanes because we don't have parking on the side street. As we widen a little bit, we get into the kind of traditional streetcar street, which in Omaha is 40 to 41 feet wide for inside of curb to inside of curb, and has parking on both sides. So streets like this include 40th Street from Hamilton to Dodge. Another example is Military from Hamilton to Lake Street. Parts of Hamilton, it's a pretty common section. Vinton Street is like this as well, and it's a pretty common section. What we're recommending as an adaptation here is something that some of cities that we've worked with and that we've observed as well have had pretty good luck with, and that is striping the edge of the parking lane. That provides a little bit of a vision. It does a couple of things. One thing that it does is it reduces the perceived width of the street from a motor vehicle point of view, and generally has a tendency to get motorists to drive at the right speed, as opposed to thinking that they can pass on the right or do other sorts of weird things. It provides bicyclists with a little bit of a line that can be straddled. So where there's a car parked or on this side of the line, where there's not a car parked, you can kind of move over to the other side. It's a mechanism of riding that many of us do anyway, so it really kind of recognizes that. But its function is largely to show that there's joint use here, that the vehicular domain is not constrained, but it's also not meant to be a 40 or 50 mile per hour situation. And in cities where we've seen this and experienced it, and I would put Cambridge, Massachusetts in this category, Sioux Falls, based on a bike master plan that we did for them a year ago, is also instituting this, and those. It's generally been, in this kind of a constrained situation, an acceptable and in a lot of ways functionally good option. We have a number of other situations that are a lot more commodious. So these are cases where we have a wide kind of avenue that may be from 46 to 48 feet wide that has parking on both sides. 32nd Avenue is a great example of that. Problem right now is that 32nd Avenue functions too well. People drive too fast on it because the street's very wide and it appears to be a principal arterial, which it's not intended to be. That's leading to calls on the part of the neighborhood for traffic calming solutions, roundabouts, and things like that. And in this case, establishing a bicycle domain on these very adaptable streets that also will help to calm through traffic meets a number of different needs and has gotten very friendly receptions. Right now, for example, on 32nd Avenue, the city's Public Works Department is seeking transportation enhancements funds to provide this kind of a bicycle facility, which along with corner nodes will really make that street function in a much safer and more effective way, and is also completely integrated into our 20-mile loop. So the section that gets created for this, which right now looks like a very clear, wide street, would be 2 parking lanes, a defined striped bike lane, and then again 2 11-foot moving lanes. Obviously cars can move over into the bike lane if they're wider than 11 feet, which shouldn't be, but we can get that done. One of the most interesting challenges and rather critical to our 20-mile system is a street like Leavenworth, which is a 4-lane street, not necessarily developed a full or adequate width. It still has parking on both sides and 4 narrow urban lanes. So Leavenworth, for example, is 54 feet wide, has parking on both sides of the street, and has 4 10-foot lanes. 12-foot lanes, by the way, are standard lanes. A lot of people use this corridor, and we have struggled for a number of years with how to make it safe. So we've got three different options. Option number 1 is the solution of, again, striping the parking lane. So that provides where there's no car, at least a little bit of a domain for a bike to sort of weave in and out around that lane, similar to the 40-foot street solution. A second concept is a sharrow, is adding a sharrow. Sharrow being, as many of you know, a paved marking that uses the bicycle, and then a chevron. For simplicity, I just used an arrow here to indicate joint use of that specific lane for bicycle transportation. This all, by the way, with adequate signage. The third option that we're exploring with Public Works and that we think has a lot of potential is something new. And that is, rather than just the sharrow, to have sort of a secondary or subliminal designation within that lane. The analogy for this and how we kind of thought of it was thinking about how these streets used to function with streetcars. With streetcars, when the car wasn't there, motor vehicles drove over the tracks, but the lane wasn't taken out of service. Same thing here. When a bike isn't here, cars are perfectly welcome to use that lane. But when they are there, there's a domain that's established and clearly marked on the street that is bicycle first territory. So we think that this could very well change the behavior of motorists on the street without, again, reducing functionality of Leavenworth. And it's something that we're pretty interested in at least trying on a pilot basis. So you can see what that section would look like. There would be signage that indicates to motorists that they're to yield, their bikes present in that zone, and they're to yield to those. It also makes sure that cars tend to give cyclists a wide enough berth as their capacity to get out of the way. So we think we may have invented something that is at least worth a look, and if it doesn't work, we remove the paint. We really haven't lost a whole lot.
Marty?
Yes.
Do you want to take questions now or later?
Now's fine.
Yeah, right now.
Just a quick one, Marty. Is the parking density low, so you're not worried about the door zone, or is that?
It's low, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say, Mark, that the highest level of parking along this street on any side is probably 25% of the curb lane, at worst. And it's probably way less than that. The ideal situation here, by the way, would have been the concept of a lane diet. That is, reducing the street to 3 lanes, providing enough room for bike lanes as with that lane reduction. The city thinks that the volumes right now are too high to do that. And also, we all believe that maybe this will demonstrate that could eventually happen, that it'll change the dynamics and flow of the street enough that maybe in the future this substandard 4-lane facility could then be converted to 3 lanes, which would be really more comfortable from a bike point of view.
And the 3rd lane would be a bike in the middle?
No, the 3rd lane would be a center left. It would be a center left turn, east 1 lane, one motor vehicle lane in each direction. Now there are 2, a bike lane, and then parking inside of that.
But you're not, because in Lincoln, some of the bike lanes are in the middle of the road?
Yeah, we're not proposing that.
Okay.
We'll see how that works. This is the concept of a lane diet, where a wide street, like 13th Street, for example, that does not carry the traffic that it once did, gets reduced from a 4-lane facility without left turns, which is not a very desirable facility, to 3 lanes with a center left turn, bike lanes on either side, and the parking lanes that already exist. So that's the concept of lane diet, where a facility that doesn't have the traffic volume to support 4 full lanes, and which in fact reduces traffic moves too quickly and left turn crash hazards, could be converted to 3 lanes with a protected center left turn, and then the added space that's created by vacating one of the lanes becomes bike lanes. The one-way streets like Leavenworth and St. Mary's provide us with the opportunity of doing a lane on one side with parking or not on the opposite side and still maintain 2 or 3 through lanes. Another interesting situation that we have in this proposed system deals with streets that don't have parking but also don't have room for a full bicycle lane. A great example of this is Leavenworth from 48th to 52nd. Leavenworth is very significant to our system and is the best route and the best grade in that part of the city, but is a very squeezed and rather hazardous route, particularly for the bike going up grade. So we've got difficulties here because we've got a high tension line along the edge that really can't be moved. We do have on part of the grade a cemetery, so there are no on the north side, so there are no interruptions of this road. So the idea here becomes one of taking a one-way bike track or lane off street, coming behind the poles and getting the slower moving bike out of the way of motor vehicles for the upgrade, merging back into the regular grade where the street flattens out. And then on the downhill side, where bikes can do a much better job of keeping up with cars, using either the Sharrow or the shared lane solution to mark out bicycle territory. We have some very lightly traveled shared routes where the Sharrow marking will work quite satisfactorily, and other places where using the concept of striping the parking lane and using the Sharrow in the regular moving lane will work again quite satisfactorily because the volumes are relatively low through that. So those are some of the concepts of the 20-mile system, which we're trying to decide what to name it. We could call it Bike Omaha, Bike O. I've played with the idea of Vel Omaha. I don't know. If anybody's got any good ideas, we love those. We're now going through the process of measuring, which has already been done, measuring each one of these streets and noting the specific traffic conditions. So for example, this is Burt Street by Creighton, 30 feet wide without parking from the North Freeway to 30th Street, 46 feet with parking on both sides from 24th to the freeway, and then basically giving the city, and with their support and cooperative work, the proposed street section or painting treatment for each one of these corridors. Now, you might ask, how is this all going to be implemented? What I should have mentioned at the outset is that we have received $600,000 of grant funds to implement this initial system from two foundations. There probably are other potential resources as well. For example, the proposed city project on 32nd Avenue and other funds that can be used. The good thing about the system is that it does not involve a lot of capital construction. We're mostly talking about signs, paint, and traffic tape. So although there's a little bit of capital work, it's not incredibly expensive or difficult. And it's primarily just a way of reconfiguring the street system to be able to accommodate cyclists more successfully. This is the Leavenworth situation that we have, and again the various ideas for the Leavenworth Bikeway. Signage is going to be also very important in this system, and I wanted to show you a couple of examples of some of the things and practices that have been employed nationwide that we hope to adapt in the system as well. One of those that will be significant that we don't have one of in Omaha yet is a shared road sign, and those will of course be deployed throughout the system. The best shared road signs that I've seen are not the sort of characteristic bicycle with share the road below it, but rather this indicator, this is from Las Vegas actually, that show lane position. They basically invented this sign and have used it on arterials, and the bike head coordinator in Las Vegas was telling me that they've had great success with it because the visual cue of providing enough clearance for the bike of where the bike and the car should be, and of showing a sense of both belonging on the street from a visual perspective is more effective than just this kind of standard bike symbol, which doesn't necessarily convey any information at all. Phoenix has also used a variation of this, so it's something that we definitely want to explore in our system. Some of the features of the 20-mile system involve the bicycle boulevard concept. That is a joint use street that Berkeley, California pioneered one of those on a rainy day in Berkeley. A significant problem throughout Omaha system is the issue of side paths, and it continues to be one that we continue to struggle with. The side path being the so-called super sidewalk or wide sidewalk or sidewalk trail adjacent to the street, which works fine for people who are afraid of getting hit from behind, but creates some real dangers at intersections of driveways and streets. This is a technique that Denver, Colorado has used on the Cherry Creek Trail. This is by the Denver Country Club on a pretty constrained part of that corridor that indicates to the motorist on the adjacent arterial that there's a trail with bicycles on it immediately adjacent. It's sort of analogous to the railroad marking technique that where railroad crossings that are parallel and marked as a warning to motorists on the street, and that's the setting. The country club is on the left. The trail is this sort of scrawny sidewalk over here on the left, and there's a signalized intersection here, and the signs are used to indicate that the trail parallels the street, and the turning motorists should be cognizant of that. Generally, since I didn't see a lot of roadkill, it seems to be a fairly good technique. The treatment of intersections, clear intersection markings, this is from Boulder, Colorado. Warning signs, once again, that indicate that there's a side path or a trail that's intersecting the things that we want to institute as well. The entire system would be marked with some sort of an iconic graphic. This is from the Bike St. Louis system, which is somewhat similar to what we're proposing in Omaha. I think that the city did a very good job of minimizing signage, putting it at the most important points, and kind of balancing the need to reduce clutter and increase user comfort, that you're on the right track. So they've used an icon that's a chain ring with sort of symbols of the city and fleur-de-lis in the middle. Graphically, it's a little busy, but it works. And the Bike St. Louis logo mark that shows you where to go, and then it's very helpful in terms of providing you with destination markers that tell you where you are and how far you need to go to go to your destination. So we're adapting this kind of a system to the Omaha situation. The Bicycle Boulevard system in Berkeley does kind of a similar thing with signage, keeping people oriented and making the system destination related rather than just sort of random streets is something that we think is going to be very important long-term from a systemic point of view. Some examples of what this might all look like. This is a redo of Park Avenue, which is part of the system between Leavenworth and Woolworth Avenue. Park Avenue right now is a 48-foot right-of-way. This proposal coincides with city redevelopment plans to increase the safety and security of that street for a variety of users, including neighborhood observability, and to reduce traffic speeds along this wide right-of-way. So what's happening is reducing the moving traffic lanes to two 12-foot lanes, which is what it's supposed to be, to have a 6-foot bike lane, to have parking lanes that are defined, and then to use corner nodes to reduce the crossing distance for pedestrians, and also to break the line of cars so that there's better observability into the sidewalk from the street, which is important in this neighborhood, not just from a sort of traffic calming point of view, but also literally from a public safety and security point of view, that being able to see behind the cars can be very important in terms of improving the sense and security in the neighborhood. A three-dimensional model of what that street will look like after conversion. And you can see that even with a line of cars parked along here, people will be able to see into the sidewalk. The 32nd Avenue project, which involves corner nodes at intersections to, again, reduce traffic speed and to define parking slots, and then a bike lane. This is 32nd Avenue at a location here between Elm Street and Woolworth, and what it looks like today, and then what it would look like after conversion with the hopefully with the approval of the proposed 32nd Avenue project. So nodes are used here to mark off parking areas. The bike lane is established throughout the district, and it gives us a great opportunity to establish a real multimodal corridor in this part of the city. This shows the adaptation of both Leavenworth and Leavenworth here, St. Mary's to the north, to continued one-way traffic movement, either 2 or 3 lanes, but with a bike lane along the right side of the street. This concept also includes an intersection improvement to make to make the confluence of those two streets more friendly to pedestrians and safer for vehicle transportation. So that's the essence of the 20-mile pilot system and some of the things that we're hoping to accomplish. Right now, we're working with Public Works on the we through Activate Omaha through the grants are working with Public Works on the specific designs and elements of the system, defining the routes a little bit better, working through the graphics, and we're hoping that we will be seeing paint down the street in the spring of the year. So this is something that can be implemented relatively quickly, funded, and in the design and approval process. A second initiative that's moving along, and Jerry Bowen has really been the manager of this project, is way on the other side of the metropolitan area, and that's the Western Douglas County Trail plan. This plan will ultimately connect West Omaha, Elkhorn, Waterloo Valley, and even Fremont with a trail system that includes both off-road and on-road facilities. Its route will use from an undefined route so far between Elkhorn and Waterloo, the existing Waterloo Trail, Old Maple Road, between Waterloo and 270th Street, 270th north to Valley, with a new trail bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad and Richmond Road, Highway 275 to the Two Rivers YMCA, continue on to City Park and Valley using an on-street route on Gardner Street, and then continue out to Fremont through an annotation of Old 275 and onto the Platte River by way of Valley Street, 300th Street, and Highway 64 out to the Elkhorn River landing. From an on-street or bicycle transportation point of view, one of the interesting elements of this system, which I sort of liken to our first sort of European-style inner-city bike network, is the use of buffered bike lanes for the first time along Old Maple Road. Many of you who ride out in this area know that Old Maple is very frequently used. It's flat. It's the best east-west route. But again, cyclists have some real peril of getting clipped by motorists who decide to use this road as a speedway. Yeah. So what we're suggesting, what we're doing is adapting Old Maple to a buffered bike lane situation. What happens here is that bicycle shoulders, generally about 7 feet wide, will be added to either side. We've got drainage ditches along the edges of the street. There'll actually be in this area, a 2-foot buffer that'll be cross-hatched or marked off as a buffer between moving vehicles and the bike lane, and then a 5-foot bike shoulder beyond that, again, to provide greater security to the casual user in this area. So we're excited about, yes?
And then, I think it was in Alabama, they've got cyclists, and in that little buffer zone is where they put the rumble strips.
They put rumble strips in there,
Is that part of what you're looking at?
Are we doing that, Jerry?
I think right now we're mostly looking at least a different colored pavement.
Different colored pavement, right.
Start with, but possibly a rumble.
Yeah, but that's right. That's another variation, is putting rumbles in that buffer. So that it's both a visual and an auditory buffer. We're going to also be continuing looking throughout the process, continuing looking at alternative facilities. We're probably not quite there yet, but there are a variety of of experimental projects and practice around the country. It's very important for all of us to continue to monitor these and to look for applications where they could be done in the Omaha area. So for example, this is a bus counterflow, or bike counterflow lane in downtown Boulder, Colorado. One of the most interesting projects underway right now is the development of bike tracks, kind of European-style bike track in New York City. So this is the 9th Avenue bike lane in Manhattan. These are parked cars here. What's going on is taking one lane out of service, developing a striped and defined buffer between the bike lane and parking, keeping all the vehicles on the right side, all the bicycles and pedestrians on the left side, and then signalizing the bicycle lane separately from moving traffic. And that's what the critical issue here is. So that when you've got a green light, a bicycle green light, nobody can turn left in front of you, and you're comfortable in continuing straight with the green light. This is the difference between European systems that do that with their inbound bike lanes and American side paths or other adaptations which don't do that and don't signalize the bike lane separately from moving vehicles. So here's an example of that. I'm riding right now on my little bike, my Bike Friday on 9th Avenue. Well, not at the moment. I stopped before I took the photograph. You can see that the bike lane has a green signal. The moving traffic cannot turn left because they've got a specific red signal that prevents the red left turn. It's actually working very well, and it's so popular that it's going to be extended for another mile. Colored bike lanes are being investigated in various locations around the country. I think the jury is still out on these because they produce a pretty slick riding surface when it's raining. Another kind of bugaboo with bike lanes has been how do you mark the things when they go across intersections? There's been a big controversy in Portland over that as a result of 2 crashes that resulted in fatalities. So this is in Brooklyn actually, and what they've done here is sort of a sharrow and secondary marking that's not quite as clear a domain as or rigid a domain as the bike lane. So a good deal of research is being done. This is although it's pretty quiet right now, the busiest bike path in the country, the Hudson River Greenway in New York, a place where there's a lot of turning movement that has actually been quite a hazard, as well as a lot of mixed pedestrian bicycle movement. And again, they're using separate signalization on the pathway to deal with that issue. Finally, organizationally, it's important to mention to you that Omaha in August started a bicycle pedestrian advisory committee. The mayor appointed a committee specifically to look at these issues and be an advocate and advisor to the city on incorporating bicycle and pedestrian transportation into street projects. The committee has had several meetings. Some of the subjects, the immediate subjects to date, have been discussing and kind of thinking about details and infrastructure improvements on the 20-mile system. Another significant initiative is the possible hiring of a bicycle pedestrian coordinator or a balanced transportation coordinator within city government. Again, we have significant private sector interests in funding at least part of that position. And we're excited about where that will all go. The advisory committee will hold periodic public meetings to have a chance to talk with people about specific issues and specific problems as well, and has formed, I think, at least at the beginning, a very strong relationship with city departments. And I think that process also has a lot of promise. So in summary, it's been an interesting year in terms of integrating bicycles into the city's transportation system. We have a plan that we think will actually work, that helps to satisfy the demand for defined east-west routes within our constraints. We have funding for that plan. We have a strong working relationship between the bicycle community and city government that's now institutionalized, at least to some degree, by the advisory committee. Have published a bike map so that people can begin to use streets and know where those streets are going to lead them. And we hope that all of these things, through the work and support of bikeable communities, which I think ultimately will be a very important organization for the city, will result in our city being not just designated bicycle friendly, and that's something that we would hope to have happen within a couple of years, but really be bicycle friendly and really be able to contribute to the well-being of our country and the conservation of our resources by greater use of this wonderful means of transportation, the two-wheeled bicycle or three-wheeled bicycle. Yeah. Any questions?
The east-west former railroad line is south of the interstate. Does anybody have a time frame approximately when that'll be?
Jerry.
Is that the Keystone East?
The Keystone East, yeah.
The eastern little section is being designed right now. Hopefully have it ready for construction next summer. The other section, which will go from basically 42nd Street to the Field Club, potentially could be being built at the same time. We're still working on that. We haven't quite right away yet.
And then will the western Douglas County Trail be all paved?
It'll all be concrete, yes.
And that's years out yet by the time we...
Again, we're firing right away right now for that one, and we're hoping to build that next summer as well.
That's right. So things are going to get a lot better here soon.
And then what's the 20 mile? What's the time frame on that?
Well, the time frame on that would be to begin to lay paint next spring. And the elements that involve capital construction are going to be a little bit later because those involve design, but it would be great to have that whole system in place by summer 2010. Yes?
With the 20-mile system, do you also plan or design education, not just for cyclists, but for the city, and for everybody to understand what this is and why it's there and how to buy it?
Yeah, and that will be also trying to strategize around that's going to be a significant area of concern for the advisory committee too. That and some of the it's interesting too because some of this goes down to public policy. For example, there needs to be a good deal of education which will involve the participation of the World Herald and others in terms of what do these signs mean and how do you behave here. I think, and this is probably, I don't know if you're still well, I don't care. I'm concerned that the driver's license renewal process has become too easy and too convenient in the sense that you don't have to review laws in order to get a driver's license renewed. So what I as an individual would advocate would be, yeah, it's fine if you can renew your driver's license online, but what would really be nice is if you had to take at least some proficiency test also online. I don't care if you cheat, because at least you've looked things up in the book, but at least to go through the process of answering 25 questions, aided or unaided, on traffic laws and on the relationship and rules of the road would be a good thing. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to involve cramming for a test, but just the process of going through that would be great. And that's an opportunity in which at least a couple of questions that relate to bicycle and motor vehicle relationships ought to be included. A number of states, and I think this is something that we should also have on our agenda as a bicycle community, have passed bicycle safety laws, South Carolina being a recent one. that include, among other things, laws that specify that a motor vehicle cannot, has to, in order to lawfully pass a bicycle, has to be at least 3 or 4 feet away from that bike. Are these things enforceable? No. Any more than speed limits are particularly enforceable, but still they're out there, and if they're in the law and are part of people's normal practice, 90% of people might comply with them. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on proper etiquette and use of the road, and I think that strategies to deal with that will be very important to all of us in terms of our personal safety and in terms of the overall safety of the transportation system. Ron?
That might be a good question to bring up when Chief Sundermeyer is here.
Yeah.
I'm sure others have experienced being struck by a motor vehicle, either as a pedestrian or a bicyclist or come close, where I was hit by a pickup truck in a crosswalk, and when the police officer made up the report, I mean, because I was up walking around, there was no charges filed against the guy driving the truck or anything. It's just as if nothing had happened.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that I've been interested in is, you never have the presence of mind to do this, but if somebody purposely, I mean, negligence is one thing, aggressive, purposeful endangerment, reckless endangerment, legal term, of course, is another term. I keep kicking myself when somebody does that to me, and I don't have the presence of mind to remember the license plate. It would be interesting, though, to have a relationship where when that happened, the license plate could be recorded, and then the police sent a reminder letter out to that individual saying, not necessarily a fine or a summons or a ticket, because you can't enforce that. It's one person's word against another. But that this car was observed doing such and such a thing to a bicycle, and we'd like to remind you of rules of the road and proper etiquette. I mean, I think that there are sort of aggressive things that are not vigilante things, but aggressive things that can be done to make the situation safer. And finally, it's very important as bicycle use expands to suggest to cyclists, both old and new, that they too have significant responsibilities. And those responsibilities are not to come within 2 inches of pedestrian on a trail, not to act as if rules don't apply to them. I've been amazed, for example, at how many bicyclists who I suspect are probably new ones, who think you're supposed to ride a bicycle on the left side of the road. I mean, that's a phenomenon that I've really seen a lot of recently, because they're thinking of themselves as pedestrians, and pedestrians are always taught on rural roads to walk on the left side. Well, it's a very dangerous situation for a bicycle where although I have my disagreements with John Forrester, where you do generally fare best when you act as and treated as a motor vehicle. So again, it's important, I think, for our community to do some self-enforcement of rules as well. And that's why the whole backside of the bike map really deals with how to behave in traffic. I think in addition to that we should have graphic etiquette rules on trails that are sort of similar to what Ragbri does as you go along the street. They're different. They're different sort of reminders: ride to the right, announce your presence, and so forth. Those should happen along a trail, almost like Burma shade signs. Again, dating myself, so that the reminder of how to behave in mixed traffic like that and to not endanger people is explicitly stated.
Going along with the education topic, wouldn't it be sort of maybe a good plan for the younger generation, such as 15, 16-year-olds that are in high school, and incorporating some sort of education for them as they're first getting their license for the first time?
Yeah, there's an even better thing, and that's correct. Chicagoland Bicycle Federation and the city of Chicago has instituted a program called the Ambassadors Program. And these are basically high school students who are educating other high school students on, number one, how to ride a bicycle, and number two, as motorists, how to behave toward bicycles. So it's kind of a peer-to-peer situation. And I think it's something, again, that we ought to be thinking about in Omaha as well. So, yeah, very good idea, and there's some very good national models for that, too. Well, thanks very much. You've been a very patient audience, and it's time for me to shut up and move on to the next person.